All right, today we're going to unlock a culinary superpower. We're diving deep into the ancient, bubbling, and let's be honest, absolutely delicious world of fermentation. And forget what you think you know about science labs, this is the real secret behind some of the most amazing flavors you've ever tasted.
You know that satisfying crunch from a really good pickle? Or that complex, spicy kick you get from kimchi? Well, the answer to all of that is a single, ancient process. It's been used for thousands of years, not just to preserve food, but to make it taste truly incredible. And you want to know the best part? You don't have to be a professional chef or some kind of scientist to do this. You can forget about complicated, fussy recipes. The entire process, the whole shebang, it all comes down to one single powerful principle: a golden roll that's going to let you ferment almost anything you can think of. So before we get to that golden roll, let's just take a second to meet the invisible chefs who are doing all the hard work for us, the microscopic heroes of our story: bacteria. Okay, so at its core, fermentation is basically a party for microbes. See, all vegetables are naturally covered in good bacteria, specifically a type called lactobacillus. When you put those veggies into the right environment, these good bacteria have a feast. They eat up the natural sugars and turn them into lactic acid. And that acid, that's what gives fermented foods their signature tang. And it also creates a sour environment that keeps all the bad bacteria away. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't this just pickling? And that's a great question, but no, not exactly. You can think of pickling like speed dating. You just dunk some vegetables in vinegar, you get a quick, sharp tang. Fermentation, on the other hand, that's a slow-cooked love story. It uses the vegetable's own wild bacteria to develop these deep, complex flavors over days or even weeks. No vinegar needed at all. And here's a really crucial point I want to clear up about probiotics. We hear that word thrown around a lot, right? But not all fermented foods actually contain them. Things that involved high heat, like baking sourdough bread or brewing beer, well, that heat destroys those beneficial live microorganisms. So for a food to be truly probiotic, those good bacteria need to be alive and kicking when you eat it.
All right, we've talked about the what and the why. Now, let's get to the how. This right here is the one big takeaway that's going to demystify this whole process and give you the confidence to start fermenting like today.
You know, mastering fermentation really just boils down to controlling three simple things. First up is salt. Salt creates the perfect environment where our good bacteria can thrive, but the harmful ones can't survive. Second, oxygen. Our good bacteria, that lactobacillus, it can multiply without oxygen, while a lot of the bad stuff can't. And third, time. Time is what determines just how tangy and flavorful your ferment is going to get. And all of this is controlled by one simple measurement. This is it. The golden rule of fermentation: use a salt concentration that's between 2% and 5% of the total weight of your vegetables and water. That's the secret. This range is the sweet spot for a safe, reliable, and seriously delicious ferment every single time. Okay, so a range is great, but how do you actually decide? Should you use 2% or 5%? Does it really matter? Oh, it absolutely does. The percentage you choose directly changes the final result. So let's break down how you can pick the perfect number for whatever project you're working on.
This decision really just comes down to four factors. First, timing. Higher salt slows the whole process down, which is perfect for long-term ferments. Second, texture. For softer veggies like, say, radishes, a lower salt percentage helps keep them nice and crisp. Denser veggies like carrots, they can handle more salt. Third is flavor. Lower salt can actually produce more complex, funky fermented flavors, while higher salt, well, it tastes saltier, but that saltiness does balance out with sourness over time. And finally, safety. If you're just starting out, sticking to the higher end of that scale reduces the risk of spoilage and gives you a much more reliable result.
Okay, enough theory. You have the golden rule, and you know how to apply it. Let's put this knowledge into practice right now and walk through your very first ferment.
And look, you do not need any expensive, fancy gadgets for this. All you need are some really basic supplies: a clean glass jar, your favorite veggies, some non-iodized salt like sea salts, and some non-chlorinated water. You'll also need something to keep the veggies submerged, like a little glass fermentation weight, or honestly, even just a small Ziploc bag filled with a bit of the brine works great. The process itself is pretty much universal. First, you prep your veggies. Second, you make your brine. That's just your salt and water solution, right? By calculating and dissolving your chosen salt percentage. Third, you pack the veggies tightly into your jar and pour that brine right over them. Fourth, weigh them down to keep them submerged.
This part is absolutely critical for creating that oxygen-free environment. Fifth, cover the jar loosely so gases can escape. And finally, the hardest part of all, you wait. So what's happening in that jar while you wait? Well, after a few days, you'll start to get a mild tang. Then, around day 5 to 7, things get way more complex and sour. And after a week or more, the flavors get really bold and sharp. The best part is that you are in total control. Just taste it along the way, and as soon as it hits that perfect tang for you, pop it in the fridge. That'll slow the whole process way down. Now for a quick but very, very important note on safety. Trust your senses. If it smells genuinely bad, or if you see any fuzzy, colorful mold on top, don't take any risks, just toss it out and start over. But please don't be alarmed by a cloudy brine or some bubbles rising to the surface. That's actually a great sign. It just means your little microbe friends are hard at work in there. This is the real magic. Once you understand the golden rule, you haven't just learned how to make pickles. You have unlocked a technique that opens up an entire universe of flavor. That same simple principle is the foundation for classic sauerkraut, fiery kimchi, tangy pickles, and even really complex fermented hot sauces and miso paste. All of these incredible foods are now totally within your reach. And these aren't just side dishes. I mean, think about it. Piling your own homemade sauerkraut onto a sandwich, adding a scoop of your kimchi to a burger for an amazing spicy kick, or blending your own fermented chilies into a hot sauce that is unlike anything you can buy at the store. You can instantly elevate any meal you make. And remember, this is so much bigger than just a single recipe. A recipe tells you what to do. But a principle tells you why you're doing it. You now understand the fundamental science of creating incredible flavor from scratch. So, you have the golden rule of salt. You've got the keys to a whole new dimension in your kitchen. The only question left is, what amazing, tangy, delicious creation are you going to bring to life first?
Hey, it's Sabrina. From me and the team, a huge thanks for watching this video to the end. We really appreciate it. For more videos like this, subscribe to our channel. It keeps us motivated to keep making content you love and enjoy.